Well, joining us right now in the studio is the Head of Risk Communication with the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, Dr. Yaya Disu. Thank you for joining us. I can see you physically in the studio. Thanks again. So let's start with what we heard from the Minister of Youth and Sports, surveillance at the NYSC camps. What happens? And this is because it appears we've not had a major outbreak in such a camp in this situation.
Yes, what happens is, luckily for us as a country, NYSC has been a platform where we have used to validate our rapid diagnostic test kits. And that is when corps members arrive in camp, and then they are screened with these test kits. Okay. And that way you're able to know their status before allowing them to go into camp. So everybody coming into camp, whether a corps member or whether you are an official or a visitor, even we NCDC officials, when we visit those camps, we are all tested. So before you go into the camp, even the vendors, everybody is tested. The military men, everyone, even the camp officials, starting from the state coordinator, NYSC coordinator, they are all tested. And that is the standard. And then they also ensure that they comply with the protocols and hygiene, use of face masks, physical distancing. You know, you've done orientation camp before. You know how...
So how regular? Is there like a follow-up test with the RDTs within the 3 weeks as well, or just when they're going in to the camp?
The ideal thing is when you go in, because they're going to spend about 2 or 3 weeks in camp. So when you're coming in, there are people who take information from you to know whether you're high risk and risk of exposure. So all those things are things they will put together to know whether you will need another testing. For instance, if you say you just stop taking care of a close relative who had COVID-19, so that means your own case is a special case. But generally, they screen people and they ask questions and they put all those information down. So, but more importantly is the protocols they comply with in the camp.
I want to talk about the COVID-19 situation report. That's from the NCDC report 43. I mean, it's showing quite a list of things. One, the increase in the number of cases, also the increase in the number of discharge cases as well. But we've also seen 38 deaths. The country recorded 38 deaths in just a week. But I'd like you to speak to inbound international travelers, because from what we're seeing, almost 5,000 inbound international travelers, out of all of them tested, 157 were positive. And then when it comes to the outbound travelers, about 268 also tested positive. The question is, I know tests are conducted before taking a trip in or out. So at what point do they, test positive to the virus?
Now, because getting the virus, you need to be exposed first. So when you take a test now, it now depends on the activities. Even if you are negative today, the activities you are involved in after the test will expose you. So those who come into the country, 72 hours before they come into the country, they take the test, and they must be negative. But that does not mean they may not even be incubating the virus at that time. Because if they are incubating at the time they are doing the test, they are just exposed, there is no way you can detect the virus. But a few days down the line, then you can pick the virus. So that is what happened. That's why Nigeria imposed the second test, that is 7 days after arrival in the country. And they warned the travelers when they arrived that they should self-isolate, because the risk of harboring the virus will still be there. And then, so they wouldn't have spread it around. So they stay at home for those 7 days and they don't receive visitors. If they have to do that, maybe through phones and through other means to minimize eye contact with people. And then it is after the second test, when you are negative, then we are sure that you're not bringing in any variant or anything into the country. Then you are free to move around. That time, we are sure that you're free of the virus.
And this is the same thing that applies to those leaving the country?
Those who are leaving the country, it depends on the country you are going to. Different countries have different protocols. So some will tell you, you may not even need to do tests before you come into their country. And the airline, they make sure that they comply with those protocols. So it depends on the country that you are going. But generally, too, most countries now are now screening people who come into their country.
All right, we'd like to appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. Head of Risk Communication with the NCDC, Dr. Yaya Disu. Thanks again.